I'm super excited to be talking to Emilie Bellet today, the founder of Vestpod. Emilie, I would love for you to tell us in your own words what you do and how you got there.
Thank you, Stephanie, for having me. So I'm the founder of Vestpod. We are a financial education platform mostly for women. I'm also the author of a book called You're Not Broke, You're Pre-Rich. And I host a podcast called The Wallet. I'm also a mom. I have 3 kids. I live in London. What else? I love sports. I'm a board member for French Tech London, so also really interested in the life of startups. So really trying to juggle all my different roles, and I'm also a speaker, so on anything related to money matters, women, and entrepreneurship. Anywhere where people give me a voice, I would try to help more women around me.
Emilie, you do so much. Tell us a little bit how you got there. How did you start and how did you get this idea to start Vestpod?
So it's been a journey, as you know, and I'm sure a lot of people you interview are telling you the same. I'm French, you can notice that. So I lived in France until my studies, and then started to travel a lot for my studies. So I studied in Spain, I studied in the UK, and I got my first job in banking. So I worked for a big bank that you know called Lehman Brothers, that doesn't exist anymore, and I joined in their private equity team actually. So I was very junior. It was quite a big opportunity. I got very lucky, to be in the right department. So my role was to be an investor, and we're investing capital, so buying companies, managing companies, selling companies. Of course, I was there at the time of the bankruptcy, but our funds spin out from Lehman, and we became an independent private equity fund. So I was an investment analyst there, and then decided, I don't know, I want to do something bigger. I want to do, I want to work on a big mission. So I left. I set up a first business before Vestpod that didn't work out, where we raised capital, we hired a team. And after a few years, didn't work out. So I ended up pregnant with my first son, no work. Everybody told me, you're crazy. You left banking, you left finance, a high paid job, you live in London. Why? And over the years, I realized that whereas I was working I had an investment job, I wasn't actually investing my money. I had like a few investments here and there, but I didn't have a pension for years. And I started looking into the statistics of the gender pay gap, the gender pension gap, the gender investing gap, and started to talk about these topics with my friends and realized that was so taboo and like maybe 7 years ago, no one really talked about money. I think now we democratized talking about money a little bit more, I feel, for women, and you see money talked to in like magazines and stuff. So it's getting better, but there's still a long way. So I started just researching just for myself, like how to do it. I made a lot of mistakes investing because, of course, I was applying my institutional investor experience, so trying to pick stocks and stuff, but I didn't have the time to actually do that, full time. So how do retail investors actually do it? And by looking at investing, I realized, yeah, but maybe I should go back to the basics: budgeting, organizing your finances, talking about debt, money mindset, like how you view money. What is money for you? What is wealth? These are topics that are really important. So I started really by writing a weekly newsletter about money to my friends, maybe 20, 30 friends. And we grew now into a community of like tens of thousands of women. So we still have our weekly newsletter every Thursday. But of course, now we grew into an education platform for women where we have courses, webinar, workshops, boot camps, podcasts and stuff like that. So really step by step. I didn't raise money for the business. So we've been, bootstrapping the business. And for me, this works well. It's challenging, but it also works well because I want to work and find a system that works for women. And I have my kids. I want to be very present at home, but of course I'm also ambitious and I want to grow my business. So how do I try to balance the two? I mean, it's not balanced, but it's really, what's the best journey for me, for my community, to get like the biggest impact possible. And this is really something I'm trying to find out. So it's how do we rebuild an ecosystem that actually works for women. And now we're talking about financial and economic empowerment. We talk about, of course, all the basics of money management, which are super important. depending whether you have money or you don't have money, but also how do you grow wealth, how do you build wealth, how do you access financial markets, and also your vision, your purpose, what do you want to do with your money, where do you want to invest, do you want to back female founders, do you want to invest in a sustainable way? So these are very valid questions, but it's not a topic we tend to discuss with women, with our friends. So I'm just trying to bridge this gap, make sure women earn more and are able to build growth over the long term.
Which is amazing, Emelie. And you've done such an incredible job in growing into this platform that you have today. I'm wondering, do you want to share with us some of those statistics? Because I've just read a book, How Women Lead by Julia Boston, who's also on my platform. And it says that less than 2% of VC money goes to women-led startups. So share some of the statistics on the pay gap and all of those things. I think that'd be really interesting.
So if you look at for me, if you take like sort of a big step and look at what's the journey of a woman, we tend to think that our journey are quite linear. And when I started working, that's what I thought. And, I'm starting this job. Next year, I'm going to get more money because I'm going to be promoted, whatever. In 5 years, I should be, I should get even more money and that should just grow. The problem is we're still the primary carers for our families, our communities. So even if, you may not have children, but maybe you're taking care of, elderly parents. So we feel very squeezed. And usually the women will be the one dropping out of the workforce or reducing their working hours. So on top of the gender pay gap, that's still, there's different statistics, but, that's still very high, maybe like 10%, 15%, depending on the industries. Then you have this sort of flexibility gap. If you have kids, we call it like the motherhood penalty, and that's going to have an impact on your level of earnings. So you still try to save and invest, but of course the capital that you have, you want to keep it safe. So I don't think women are risk adverse. Women are ready to take risk with their finances, but they probably need a little bit more money to get started with. So there's all these structural issues around money. And then when you look at, the longer term, what happens when we retire, if you look at, women in their 20s today will retire with 100,000 pounds less than men. So the gender pension gap is huge. Women tend to retire quite poor. And actually, these decisions will be taken from, like very young, like maybe first job, maybe, missing on salary negotiation, maybe working part-time, maybe managing your finances a certain way with a partner. So it's really tackling these issues very young to be able to then compound these issues. And when we talk about investing, we often talk about compounding interest, that, it's not about just leaving money into like a jar under your mattress or in a saving account that's paying you 0% when you have inflation in the UK at like 9%. So it's making sure you grow this money. But because we don't have the education, we don't talk about money, we acquire financial habits from a very young age, between 3 to 7 year old. So I'm just trying to do that with my kids, but this is extremely hard, and it's not something you do at school, but it's, understanding these really good habits around delayed gratification, budgeting, saving a little bit of money, making your money grow, but for a specific purpose. It's not about accumulating money. But if we have these habits, we then learn about, the stock market, investing, then we're able to put our money at work and grow our money to just buy ourselves financial security, financial stability, independence, freedom. It means being able to, move to a new place, to live like a toxic relationship, for example. So money will buy you this level of freedom and choices.
Emelie, what would you say is your main motivator? I mean, you've clearly decided to be an educator, an agent for change. What motivates you?
I think it's the conversations I have with women. And there's some days where it's not easy, where I'm like, I should just, I don't know, go back to this world of finance, like, the hardcore finance world of investments, or maybe I should play the full startup game and raise money and go through like this cycle. But with Vestpod, we're very close to our community. So if it's on webinars, but we also host in-person events, so we host pods in different cities, also in the UK. And every day I have money conversation with someone from the community. We have a few WhatsApp groups, we're on Facebook, people reply to my newsletter, to the podcast. And I think we are very connected And that's something I don't see with financial institutions and financial brands, who very quickly, as they grow and as they reach scale, and you need this level of scale, but it's very hard because they feel they're really disconnected, and they lose trust, and they don't know where people are. So I think we really have a pulse on what's happening in the economy, what's happening with people's wallets, and how we can help them the best. And I think there's a lot that is maybe a little bit of, empowerment, giving confidence, a little bit around coaching and having these conversations. And I learn so much from women every day. So this is really what gives me the energy to basically, carry on. And the women I work with, they're amazing, like women work in like this financial education space. Some of my clients, some of the women in my community, women in my team, like meeting you, other communities. This is really what's driving me. And then I'm ready to do it for how long as it takes. But I can't hear women who keep telling me, I'm bad with money, I don't know how to get started, I'm worried about investing in the stock market. It's not rocket science. You just need the tools, you need the motivation. You don't need to pay a lot of money to get these things. I mean, there's a lot of this that's available online, but you need a guide, because there's also the reverse. That's like, there's a lot of scams online. As soon as we talk about money, there's people who want your money, they want to help you invest and stuff. So Vestpod is really like this middle women, where you can go and find like the great resources, information, and finding like just like a friend or group of friends, and to make it a bit more fun, because I think, money and the economy and stuff, it can be quite gloomy at the moment. So I feel if we do it together, if we're accountable, and trying to always, help each other, rise each other, for me, that just works.
And it's amazing, Emelie, and I think that makes you stand out so much, because that really that's palpable, and that you want to be on the pulse, and that you shed so much light on all the little issues that we face right now with the all the different crises that we're in now. So I love that. What do you think is your superpower, Emelie? Is it that connection that you have, that you thrive on?
So I think connection is maybe one, but to be really honest with you, connection has been a bit tricky over the past few years, because we had like this beautiful community in person. I mean, at least in London, pre-COVID, and then we all go inwards, we all stay home. I had my third baby at the beginning of lockdown. So for me, it was really like going inward, spending time with my kids, like the majority of my time, trying to work here and there, trying to balance it. But my mind is like really like, wow, that's a lot to do at the same time. So I felt we lost a little bit of this connection over the past few years. It's the same for me. I used to go out a lot and see friends and go to all these events and organize all these events. But at some point you're feeling a little bit like, how do we do this now? How do we reconnect with each other? So actually connecting is one of our goals this year. It's, one of our like magic words. And we're really going to be trying to work on connection. And we do that on socials, on events, across lots of different platforms. And it's really trying to help people discover maybe new voices in the space, because I'm bored of hearing myself talk about money. So it's also, how do I learn and connect with others? And there's so much I learned from the community, where I want other women to benefit from personal stories, experiences. Because if you want to learn about budgeting, you can just do a quick Google search, right? But you're going to do it because there's this girl who has been doing it. She got out of debt, she started investing, and she's like building her own path. So I think it's like these like personal stories, experience, but I think there's new ways of connecting today, and I'm super interested in the art of gathering, and we're really working on that with the community. I think one of my superpowers, and when I saw your question, I was like, I don't know, but I think it's resilience. And this is like, because this is so hard. I mean, building a business, as you know, and now when you're building a business as like a solo founder, you have to be the face of the business. And I think this is really true for women. You have to be on camera, you have to have a podcast, you have to know how to write, you have to know how to speak, you have to know how to make your taxes, invest your money, do your business plan, talk to your accountant. Now we had, it's like self-assessment tax return. I have to do my business taxes, my personal taxes. I have to do my kids kids show and tell, math on the morning, spelling. So it's really trying to do all these things. And I think, for women, this is really like, the mental load that we're in. And I enjoy it. I enjoy the juggle and stuff. But I think it takes every day to go back to it and go back and go back. So it's really, for me, the purpose has been the only thing that will, and I think, of course, for my kids, I'll do anything that's, different. But I think for the business is really the purpose and picturing my community and being like, okay, they need this, so let's go and do it. And it's each time you thinking too much about what should I do and you're getting lost or you're worried or you feel the fear. And that happens so often when you're an entrepreneur. Just go back to the action. Just do something really small, really, really small, tackle it, and tomorrow is another day.
I love that you said that, Emelie. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that's really true. And especially when you listed all the things that most women do every single day, it's really an act of superwoman. And I think about that so much. And I don't think that anyone actually is sort of consciously living that and saying thank you to oneself every day for doing all of these incredible things, and most of the time really well, and then also running a purpose-driven business. And I think that's also something that's very female, and I wonder if that's your experience. Women really thrive on the purpose-driven ideas and businesses and so on. And so I think that's why, really, to me, women are an integral part of the economic recovery, but also in creating a better future. And we all know that that is essential right now, because women are so good at purpose-driven ideas, because that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm so interested in how women build businesses. The purpose you're talking about, why are we building businesses, what is our goal, and how we do it. And I think we do it in a way that's authentic, because we know what we want, but it's also not all about growth. It's not, I know you talked about numbers and stuff, which are really important. And for me, I have my plan. That's, of course, it's changing. You need numbers, you need to know where you're going. But at the same time, you need to be a little bit maybe pragmatic. You need to live with people around you. You need to show a certain level of energy where, often in founders, you realize like such a big ego, because it's just building a business that's going to be the bigger business. And you can get into this game of wanting more and more and more, like any consumer will want more from like retail therapy and get this like dopamine hit. But I think it's always taking a step back and asking yourself, why are you doing what you're doing? And for me, it's how do I do that is maybe, trying to take breaks, meditating, taking my holidays, and always disconnecting from the business to be able to go back into it and really like delivering on my mission. That's really important. But business is hard because you're thrown in like tons of different directions. There's the money versus the community versus the impact versus maybe the team, what you want for yourself. I think it's very, very, very clear on your goals, and then learning to say no to things that won't, fit in the direction where you want to go. But I think you learn by doing, and I've, making so many mistakes, and it's like every day, and failing my first business, I think was like such a difficult experience. Looking back at the time, I felt like so sick. I couldn't do anything. I was like, this is just the end of my working life, professional life. What am I going to do? And now looking back, I'm like, it was great, actually. I learned so much. So I think each time something happened, failure, you're not sure, just, reward, go back to these events and realize it's okay. Nothing's can happen. It's fine. Carry on. So I think it's just a story of, resilience and trying to have fun, because very quickly, especially like with current economic conditions, and it's hard, you work with freelancers, you work with business owners, money's drying up a little bit. So people don't have enough money at the moment, so the conversations can be a bit gloomy and dark. So how do you empower people to think slightly out of the box, think differently? And there's always something you should be grateful for. So that's also something we try to keep really at the core of Vestpod.
You've already answered the next question, which is top tips for other women. I think you definitely answered that. Emelie, what are your plans or dreams for your future, Vestpod's future?
So more than Vestpod's future is more like for, you know, women in the community or women who follow us or any women to reach a certain level of financial security and financial independence. We shouldn't have these conversations today. I'm not sure why we're still talking about how to build wealth, how to understand your finances, making sure women are paid the same as men. It's a conversation I had with my two young boys who are 5 and 7. And I explained to them, like, for example, taking the example of football teams, that, you know, the girls would be paid nothing compared to the men. And they're like, but it's not fair. You know, they're doing the same job. Why would someone in my class, you know, be paid less than me? And I think for me, changing the mindset around that is super important. So it's gonna take a while. And I think the second thing is also for people to review maybe their spending habits and what are we doing to this planet. You know, sustainability, we talk a lot about it, but a lot of us don't actually do enough. It's a really big responsibility for us, and of course, you know, politicians, big corporates, but what can we do at an individual level? And I think this rise of consumerism that completely exploded, I think for me that's going to help people to feel better about themselves, to stop purchasing, consuming, comparing themselves to others, and really going back to the basics. So I think there's a little bit of this, like, you know, money and making sure people have enough money, but at the same time trying to find happiness, maybe the truth. And people are going to be looking for that, like, you know, we're going to be looking for it our whole life, but it's trying to find ways to make our life a little bit easier, because sometimes we are complicating things a little bit.
Emelie, thank you so much for talking to me today. And I think that these conversations are so important to have every day. So you just keep going.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.